Thank you all so much for coming today. We're very honored and pleased to have Melissa Smarr, who is with Fairfax County Silver Shield. As Melissa was just telling us, it's an initiative the county developed about 6 years ago to educate and do outreach to the community about protecting its citizens from scams. So far, if I'm correct, Melissa, in our conversation in the beginning, you said it's 9 agencies that participate in this Silver Shield program in Fairfax County. Melissa is a lifelong a native to the area and has been working for the county for over 21 years in various agencies. And thank you so much, Melissa, for being with us today and sharing this important information.
Oh, you're most welcome. So I told Angela that I can certainly take questions. So Angela, if you wouldn't mind, if there is a question that comes up in chat and I don't see it, please feel free to interrupt me.
Absolutely.
So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over scams that happen in 2021. We're still waiting on the data for 2022. What I've done my pre-research is that a lot of the scams are the same. They may change in order of, the top 5, but the scams are still around. And I was telling Angela and Carl that those scams typically become even more sophisticated as the scammers watch the news, read the newspaper, online stories, because the scammers are just like you and I, except they use their smarts for evil and not good. So let me make sure I can advance this. Oh yeah, okay, that's fine. There we go. Okay, so just I'm going to give you 2 facts. The first one is nationally, 11% of adults, or more than 25 million people, and this is kind of a generalization, were victims of scams during a 1-year period. And this is according to the Federal Trade Commission. Scams tend to be underreported because people are usually embarrassed that they have fallen victim to a scam. Again, these scammers are criminals. They are, in some cases, are very sophisticated criminals. It's a criminal enterprise. The police, I work with the Fairfax County Police Department as they're the lead in any investigation related to scams. And they will come and talk to us, and they're also on our Silver Shield campaign. And they have told us that some of these scammers are basically like little mafia. So that's kind of how they compare those scammers to what we used to know as mafias. I'm sure there's mafia still around, I don't know, but that's anecdotal. And then the second fact I wanted to share, which I didn't include a slide, is I was sharing with Angela and Carl that more younger people are actually scammed. It's just that they have more time to recuperate any financial losses. Their losses tend to be less money because they don't have as much money. We have had older people, and I'll give examples during the presentation. We've had people lose their entire life savings from scammers. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So let's get into the top scams of 2021. And this chart here we'll go over. So prizes, sweepstakes, free gifts. So this could be the Jamaican lottery scam. There were free gifts that happened during the pandemic. So I don't know if you all heard, but in Virginia, there were people who received seeds from China. And what the scam was that they wanted you to order more, and that's how they would get money. So they would give you the free packet of seeds, and nobody knew what they were. And people, so they were doing news stories about this particular incident or incidences. And they were telling people, throw it away because we don't know what it is. We don't know if it's bamboo. We don't know if it's, anything dangerous that could, affect the environment, a person's health. So that's kind of what they mean by free gifts, is that, again, you'll get it, but then there's usually strings attached with that free gift. Internet general merchandise. This is where a lot of the younger people get scammed. They have a Facebook marketplace where you can buy, items, and a lot of young people use that. And unfortunately, sometimes they're scammed because they either never receive it or it's not what was promised as part of the transaction. So what we tell younger people and people who want to buy online, older people, it doesn't matter, is you want to pay with a credit card, because if there's any type of issue, you can dispute the charge up to 60 days. And then if you pay by a debit card, you don't have that protection like you would a credit card. So you want to try to pay by credit because you get more, more protection. Phishing or spoofing, this has been around for a long time. So typically phishing is usually done either by emails or text messages, trying to get you to buy into something. Angela was talking about how she may have been the victim of a scam. Luckily, it did not occur with Dominion Energy. Someone called saying that they were from Dominion Energy and claimed that she didn't pay her bill, which she knew she did. And that happens because, again, scammers are on the internet, so they know about local, electric companies, gas companies, water authorities. So all they have to do is get online, and then that's where they can perpetrate a scam. Fake check scams. This was happening a lot, especially during the pandemic with the stimulus checks, as well as when tax returns happen. So scammers will send you a check. It'll be for a set amount of money. Then they'll call you and say, well, the amount was too much. I need you to give me a refund. But you can keep the remainder of the money. But in fact, the check is completely fake. And then you're out money and you don't get any of the money. So if it's not a check you're expecting or it looks suspicious, don't cash it. And if you want to go further, you can talk to your bank. You could also report it to the police, your local police department, to see if they would take a case and possibly pursue any criminal charges, whether misdemeanors or felonies, depending. There's a threshold of money that you have to, I think it used to be 500 for a misdemeanor. I'm sorry, for a felony, and then anything less than 500 was a misdemeanor. I think that's been up to 1,000 now. So just to make you aware of that. The friendship and sweetheart swindles. This is typically is your romance scams. Again, during the pandemic, a lot of us were in our homes because we were scared about getting COVID, and they were telling us to stay inside our homes. So a lot of people, and especially those that live alone, were turning to the computer. They were turning to, the dating websites, Match.com, eHarmony were two of the big ones. They said that over 3,000 dating websites were actually created during the pandemic to meet demand. We actually I met a woman recently who was scammed out of $39,000 during the pandemic, and that was basically her life savings. And she was trying to move, and she's been trying to save her Social Security checks in order to buy, to downsize her home because she lives alone now. Her husband passed away some years ago. She thought she met the love of her, a man who was going to provide her security and love and comfort, and it was all fake. And she, is devastated. We have had people who have been scammed, whether it's sweetheart scam or other scams, that have taken their own lives. I mean, they've committed suicide just by the stress. My inspector who deals with building code complaints, because that's my day job, the Silver Shield is my passion, and I squeeze it into my day job. So we deal with unlicensed contractors, and I was telling Angela and Carl, contractors who abandon projects for homeowners, construction projects. And we had a gentleman and his wife who were scammed out of $320,000. They thought they were paying a licensed contractor to build them a house. He was completely not licensed. That case is currently in court. We've been able to retrieve about $40,000 $1,000 back from him. He still owes her another $280,000. And the judge told him last year, so she gave him 2 years to pay it back. And if he doesn't pay, he will be spending a year in jail. But as a result of all of this trauma that they experienced, she now has significant health problems. He has had a stroke. He unfortunately turned to alcohol to suppress his pain. And it's just a horrible story. They're great people. You know, they thought they were doing right and they completely got scammed. So scams can take many forms. That's why the Department of Justice has created an elder abuse and elder fraud phone number where you can report these incidences. They're looking into providing counseling services like small support groups. AARP, Fraud Watch Network, they've actually partnered with Volunteers of America, and they provide, I think it's like 5 or 6 like small support groups to help those people who have been victimized by scams. It's not just the money loss, there is emotional trauma as a result. So just want to, again, not depress you, but these are the realities of people who have been scammed. Investments, this can include cryptocurrency scams. So they're actually, which actually boggled my mind when I heard this 2 months ago. There are more people in the United States that have cryptocurrency savings accounts than they do traditional savings accounts. Now, I myself don't trust cryptocurrency because, one, I don't know enough about it. I'm still researching it. And number 2, it's not, if I can't touch it, I don't think it's real. And that's kind of, and that could be the old, I mean, I'm not super old, but I'm old enough where I'm not hip to cryptocurrency. But there are actually cryptocurrency ATMs around Fairfax County and Northern Virginia, depending on where you all live. There have been scams where people have gone to cryptocurrency ATMs to get out money to pay scammers using cryptocurrency. It is replacing the gift card scams. I mean, there are still gift card scams because, you know, gift cards are pretty instantaneous where we've had people buy, like, you know, there was a woman on the local news who spent $30,000 in gift cards and gave all the gift card information to the scammer. She'll never get her money back. And that money's gone. But it was pretty much instantaneous within, I think, 3 or 4 minutes after she gave the number on the front and then the 3 or 4 digit number on the back, like a credit card. As soon as she gave that information to the folks, it was gone. So cryptocurrency is a way of paying. It's a new savings account. There's ATMs, like I said. So this, I think, is going to probably move up. And obviously there was the fall of, I think, FTX, one of the cryptocurrency companies. But again, there are more and more companies that are coming up that are based solely on cryptocurrency and not real money as we've known it previously. Number 7, the advance fee loan credit arrangers. So there have been people who have gone to like the payday loan businesses like your Title Max. And, you know, they say it's a legitimate form of business. I tend to disagree. But there have been people that have been victimized where they're paying 150% in interest. They're never going to pay that money back, ever. But some people are so desperate for cash that they'll agree to anything. So that's kind of what we're talking about, these advance fee loans and credit arrangers, you know, that are not legitimate, that are not backed with a, you know, the major credit card companies we think of, American Express, Visa, MasterCard, Discover. So just, again, keep that in mind if you're ever needing credit. You know, and a lot of these people can't go to a traditional bank to get a loan because they don't qualify. Number 8, family friend imposters. This is usually perpetrated over social media where there'll be a message that comes out and says that, you know, I've been kidnapped, or I'm stuck in a country, I'm in a hospital, I've been arrested, please send money. So those are the kind of imposter scams that we're talking about. And so they still continue to happen. So again, you want to be leery of that unless you really know the person and you can get in touch with the person. Most of the time, it's usually a scam if it's perpetrated on social media. Not always, but a majority of the time. Computers, equipment, software. So what I tell people is you never want to give control of your computer to anyone. Obviously, Angela was sweet enough to give me control of Zoom so I could share this presentation, but I'm not going to scam her. But you don't want to ever give control of a computer to anyone, especially if it's someone who calls you out of the complete, blue, only because you don't know what they're going to be doing. Usually it perpetrates a scam, and it only takes about 10 minutes or so to completely wipe out information or copy information that's on your computer. And a lot of people, including my father, will actually keep all of his financial information on the computer. So if you give control of your computer and they're copying the contents, they're getting a lot of information. So if you have a problem with your computer, or you receive what I call the black screen of death, where your computer doesn't work anymore, you want to go ahead and take it to somewhere that's trusted. My dad loves the Geek Squad, or wherever they're rebranding with Best Buy. People go to Micro Center. They love that place. My brother-in-law loves and will go any chance he gets. He doesn't care for what reason. He just loves going. So there are places that will fix the computer. Again, you don't want to give control of a computer to anyone. You want to try to be as much control as you can, because scammers are trying to put the fear factor into you. They want you to make snap decisions, and you want to take time, because if you have time, or you give time, and like Carl said, it's easier to hang up on somebody than it is to tell them no in person. A lot of these scams, though, are not perpetrated in person. There are a few, and I'll go over that in just a few minutes. But most of them are perpetrated either online, by text messaging, emails, or via the telephone. So I want you to take that power back. You don't have to answer the telephone. You don't have to respond to that email. We recommend that you don't click on anything that is not something you're expecting. I actually accidentally clicked on something yesterday, and I've had to kind of clean that up myself too. And it's only because I thought it was a legitimate company that I was working with, when in fact it wasn't. So it can happen to any of us. So just keep that in mind. And
Yeah,
then,
Melissa,
yes, go ahead, Angela.
I'll add to that. Recently, Carl and I were meeting with Anderson Windows and Doors, because we're having a door replaced. And I got an email the other day from somebody that had an Anderson email address, but the email was very vague. Like, it didn't have the person's contact information or anything. It just said, attached is this particular invoice. And before I even opened it, even though I knew it was possibly from Anderson, I wrote the person back and said, I don't recognize your name, and I don't know what this is in reference to, but until you substantiate yourself, I'm not opening that document. And I didn't. And then the guy said, oh, I'm the guy who came and did the technical measurement. I was like, okay, well, next time, I guess it was an automated email that the company auto generated. So even then, you can always write them back and say, I don't know who you are, or even call the office, find out before you open something.
Right. And actually what I've been doing, and what we've been telling people to do, is to put your cursor over the email address to see if in fact it's a real email address, or it's one of those ones that has something like, like 30 letters, like at and 30 letters, not like Anderson.com or
right.
bestbuy.com or, whatever, or bank or whatever. So, and actually banks have gone so far as to basically create fraud departments. Those fraud departments probably weren't in existence like they are today, even 15 years ago. So I know I've received scams from Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and I just send it to their fraud department and say, okay, well, here's an email I received. I think they do their best to investigate. Of course, you never do find out unless you're called to testify whether or not they've tracked down the person or persons who were responsible for the emails. But I do report it. And the reason why I know I don't have those is because I don't have a Wells Fargo account. I don't have a Bank of America account. So I know I know nothing's going to happen to me, because you'll get the text message that'll say your bank account's going to be frozen unless you click on this link. Yeah, you can freeze it all you want because it doesn't exist. So hold on, sorry about this. Okay, there we go. So some of the scams from ARP, because they also do their own survey. I mentioned the Fraud Watch Network, Zoom phishing emails. So Zoom became really popular in 2020, obviously, because of the pandemic. We're on Zoom now. And so there were scams related to Zoom. And so they were making it look like you had to either click on the link for an upcoming meeting, or what they were doing is they wanted you to click on it and they were going to put malware and malicious software on your computer if you clicked on the link. People lost money because of this, because they had to clean up the viruses. Again, the Zoom people wanted the money. So again, the precursor and the driver of these scams is money. They want money from you. The COVID vaccination card scams. So we all went through the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2021, late 2020, early 2021, vaccines were made available to those who decided that they wanted vaccines. There were a lot of companies, there were a lot of concert venues, there were a lot of organizations, companies, the government that wanted you to be vaccinated, and they wanted you to have a COVID vaccine card. Well, there were people that were selling them online for those who didn't want to get a vaccine. There were those that, and they were charging like $500, and people were paying this money to get a COVID card. And then that was part of it. And then people who went to go get a vaccine were basically taking a picture with their COVID card, or they were taking a picture of their COVID card and posting it on social media. And when you put your full name on it, you put your birth date and information where you received your shot, that was a great way for scammers. They just needed that little bit of information to break into your bank account, to create, credit cards in your name, and you were none the wiser until you started receiving the bills. So again, to combat that problem, and I had gone to my husband and I went to our local vaccine center. So then they were doing backdrops so you could take a picture that you had obtained the COVID vaccine and not post your card online. So again, any information that they can get from you, and especially, again, people didn't think of it. They were just so excited that that the pandemic was coming to an end or nearing an end. They just, again, simple little things that they didn't think of that could, potentially wreck their credit and their financial well-being. Phony online shopping websites. Again, Amazon gets hit with this a lot. Retailers, brick and mortar stores are getting, this is happening to them as well. You're either clicking on an ad online, you think it's a great product, you enter your card information, and then you never receive the product. Again, that's why you want to pay by credit card and not by debit, so you have that protection, because if you don't receive it, they can cancel the charge. Now, sometimes though, they may not be able to get the money back. That becomes a problem for the credit card companies. So again, you want to try to go to trusted websites that you type in. Some people have asked if they could, mark it as a favorite on their computer. That's up to you. I tend to type it in each time I use it, only because I don't know if someone has hacked into my, web browser. And again, I'm not trying to be cryptic, but we have had people that they'll go to Panera Bread to get online, but it's a public Wi-Fi, so people will steal information there. I know it happened to me years ago, and that's why I do all my financial information at home, because we have a secure secure as you can get for internet service. So again, you want to keep that stuff in mind. Celebrity imposter scams. Yeah, there were people that were, and this is again for more younger people, but they thought that they were getting a product from Kim Kardashian or Justin Bieber, They were basically using cash apps to send the money, or they were trying to win free money that they were apparently offering. And then unfortunately, they won, and so they were putting up money up front to get whatever product it was for free, or their money was being stolen because they had that information. So again, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is, in the words of Carl, because he is absolutely correct. Online romances, we talked about this before. We actually had a teacher who was had lost her husband. She had retired right before her husband died. She wanted to find somebody. So 6 months later, she got on Match to try to not find a husband, but she wanted to find a companion to go through life with. She was very lonely, very depressed about losing her husband. And within a month of meeting someone, she started giving him money. And 6 months later, she lost her entire life savings. And then she had to go back to work because she had no money. And so we've heard this time and time again. Again, you never want to send money to anybody unless you feel comfortable. But, you know, these scammers will spend hours upon hours emailing. They send fake pictures because they actually get pictures online of people. You know, who's going to know? And again, you know, so the FBI did investigate that case. They were able to retrieve some of her money back, but not all of it. But she was just left totally devastated. The last I heard was that she was in counseling because obviously she lost her husband, and then this horrible thing, you know, this horrible event happened to her. But it's a lot on people, because we're trusting as humans. But unfortunately, in this day and age, we have to be careful who we trust, because again, you just don't know anymore. Medicare card scams, and this has always been the case, but again, especially since the pandemic, there were scammers, and it's been on the news. There was a scammer out of Florida who built the Medicare system for, I think they said $10 million in like fake claims. And they set up these like fake offices. NBC went to one, and there was one woman sitting in there, and she got paid, I think something like $15 an hour to answer phones. She had no idea who the guy was. She had received the job through, I think, Craigslist. Craigslist is another minefield of, you know, opportunities. Dateline did a story about that, and how you could actually find someone to kill somebody for you. I mean, it's crazy. I've never been on Craigslist myself, but I have heard some stories about Craigslist. Anyway, but Medicare scams. So this guy in Florida, he was just COVID related treatments, Medicare equipment, you know, for people who've had strokes, who needed physical therapy, who may have broken, you know, bones, hips, ankles, arms, wrist, and not a one of them was legitimate. So Medicare has had to investigate, the states investigate the Medicaid and Medicare scams as well. And I think over the next probably, I would say 5 years, there's going to be more stories about Medicare and Medicaid scams during the pandemic. So it happens. Again, your doctor's office is never going to call you to confirm your Medicare number, especially if you're an existing patient, if you've already provided the information to them. I always tell people that if they need it, tell them that you'll give it to them at their next visit, that you don't want to give anything over the phone or email it or click on any links, because again, they're going to have that information.
Well, Melissa, we had
Yes.
talked about before we started recording and you started your presentation that there are people out there who are trying to sell snake oil to the Parkinson's community and other chronic disease communities. That you know, there are stem cell research or stem cell treatments for Parkinson's, which are not true, or selling some kind of vitamin or some type of procedure. I know the CBS has been doing a story about a dental appliance that is causing a lot of issues for folks, not Parkinson's related, but otherwise for a non-FDA approved device. And so, you really have to trust in your doctors that you do have a personal relationship or in-person relationship versus, somebody contacting you via email or whatnot.
Angela, I had a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Melissa, what about some of these commercials you see where for Medicaid where they talk about checking your zip code? I didn't understand. Are these scams, or are these actually qualified Medicare people?
So that's a really good question, Carl. So apparently and I don't know much about Medicare, but I've learned a lot from the ARP because they're part of our Silver Shield. So actually there's an open enrollment period for Medicare in the latter part of the year. I think it goes from the end of October to, I think, December 7th or 8th is the magical date. December 7th or 8th, yes. So what happens is that I think you're required to get Medicare Part B, and you pay for that. And then if you want A, C, and D, I think D is prescription related, and I could be wrong. Again, you all are probably more experts than I am on this, but there are 4 apparently different insurances. You can buy all 4. Some people just get the Medicare Part B, pay for that, and then they may have a secondary insurance from where they retire. So there are many companies out there, just like when Obamacare was created, there's multiple companies that are trying to get the younger people that don't have insurance covered through what they call the insurance marketplace. So it's a minefield when it comes to Medicare, is my understanding. And some of them are legitimate, some of them are not. And it's a matter of whether or not you want to work with a company who's going to supplement your required or your Medicare insurance that you receive from the federal government.
Okay. Gotcha.
So that, and again, if anybody has anything else that I'm missing or I've misspoken, please let me know. But that is the gist of what I've been told by our AAP partners. And ARP, Angela, I can get you in touch with 2 of the folks that we work with. They do presentations as well. So if you all are interested, they'd be more than happy to give a presentation.
That'd be great, Melissa. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll do that to you. I'll get that to you after, Angela. So,
Melissa, just
yes.
for anybody who doesn't know, the Medicare.gov website has all the accurate information. I think the open enrollment period you were referring to, which is typically from October 15th to December 7th, is usually for Medicare Part D, the drug plan. You have an open enrollment period every year. There's also an open enrollment period the first 3 months of January each year for people who maybe didn't sign up for Medicare Part B when they were eligible. There's like a 7th month open enrollment for when you're eligible for Medicare. So it can be very confusing, and Medicare.gov has it kind of all spelled out for anybody who wants to know, sort of the do's and don'ts, because it can be confusing.
Well, thank you for that information. I really appreciate it, because I'm not an expert. I don't even pretend to be one. I do have a follow-up question for you, ma'am. So I do understand that there could be penalties associated with Medicare if you don't sign up by the age that you are eligible. Is that correct? Do you know?
Well, it's just not a yes or no. Medicare Part B, sometimes people are covered under wherever they worked, so they don't sign up for Part B. Some people don't sign up for Part B just because they don't sign up for Part B. And then if you want to sign up later, yes, it's like when people aren't on drugs at age 65 and they say, oh, I don't need to sign up for a drug plan. You get dinged every year forever when you do sign up because you didn't have coverage starting when you were eligible. So it gets convoluted. But yes, there can be penalties for people who don't sign up for Part B, who probably should, and also people who don't sign up for the cheapest drug plan they can just to have coverage, even if they're not taking medications, because they'll pay for it later.
Sounds as clear as mud.
Pardon me?
Sounds as clear as mud. Yes.
I said it was as clear as mud is, Carl. Absolutely. It's very clear.
Yeah. I was talking to someone several months ago, and they were saying, like you had said, ma'am, that they had to pay fines. They didn't know it because they were actually out of the country and they came back and they have to literally pay a fine. It's literally a fine every year that they renew their Medicare. I couldn't believe it, but I don't know why that shocked me. So.
One more question: Is eBay safe? I mean, we buy stuff on eBay all the time. With no problem. Is eBay a dangerous place to buy stuff?
Well, it can be. I mean, we've had complaints where people have purchased on eBay, they've either not received the product or it wasn't the product they promised. So I think it just depends on, we've had people like yourself that have had excellent success. We've had people that have had horrible experiences and will never return. So I think it's just a matter of, doing your research as best you can. If you trust the seller, and like I say, you just want to pay by credit card in the event you don't have a good experience with eBay or you don't receive the product as promised.
Okay, great.
So the next scam that has plagued our communities is with the rise of smartphone usage, and there are people that don't have one, but there are a lot that do. That basically use, especially the younger people, they have all kinds of stuff that I don't know about. Cash App, basically you could pay with your Cash App, your Venmo, your Zelle, your PayPal. So it's not cryptocurrency, but it's transferring money electronically and not having cash in hand. So there's accidental transfers that happen of funds, where a scammer will send money, ask for the money back, claiming it was an accident. But then they find out later that the original transfer was from a stolen debit or credit card. And then you're out the money because you might be charged for the transaction. So again, you just want to be careful in using these. I mean, again, it's up to you. Based on your comfortability, but you want to make sure that you protect the money that you've worked so hard to earn. We've actually had complaints where people have been invoiced on these different platforms, and they keep getting hounded, like you have to pay, you have to pay, you have to pay, and it's completely a not legitimate charge, and the people ignore it, and you get those emails. And I myself have received them, so I just ignore them, and they want to go through and sue me, they can go right ahead. Good luck. Social Security scam calls. This happens throughout the year. This also happens during tax season with the IRS. So some of the scams can include your scary phone call saying that your Social Security number was used in a crime, and you'll be arrested if you don't comply, or that you're an agent's coming to your door right now to arrest you. Again, the police are not going to call you, whether it's the FBI, local police department, state police. They are not going to call you to say that you're arrested or that they're coming to get you. They're going to just come to your door and arrest you with a warrant or a summons. So again, they're using that fear tactic again, and they want the money. The IRS is kind of the same thing, or similar, sorry. They'll say that you owe money to the IRS, but they want it in gift cards. Again, the IRS is not going to accept gift cards. They're not going to accept credit card. But again, people get scared and they just make decisions that they normally wouldn't if they had the time to process what is being told to them. Account takeover scams. This could be from your bank. And this particular example is Amazon. There's an urgent sounding message. It may have a real logo. Again, they want you to click on the link because they want you to, pay for something, pay for an overdue bill, pay for some type of fee. And again, you just want to make sure that you are definitely not clicking on links, and just keep track of your bills, keep track of your credit card charges to make sure that there aren't any erroneous charges on your credit card. So I received my information from a lot of different websites, and I gave Angela the presentation that you're more than welcome to look at later. So some of the scams that were identified by the United States Senate Special Committee on Aging, and we've already talked about these except for the last one: government impersonation scams, that's Social Security, IRS, sweepstakes scams we talked about earlier, illegal robocalls and unsolicited phone calls. They stink. We all receive them, whether it's cell phone, landline, both. There is no fix for the robocalls. Congress and the Senate have passed legislation to force the phone companies to curb the number of phone calls that we receive on a daily basis. Now, unsolicited phone calls, there is the Federal Trade Commission's do not call list. They most certainly can, you can register those calls. There are some exemptions. Political calls, they can go through, they're not part of the federal law. But it's mostly telemarketers that this targets. That can, I've done it for the last, I think it came into existence in 2005. You have to renew every 10 years, all the phone numbers. I think you have up to 10 phone numbers you can register on an account, and it has to be updated every 10 years. I can tell you that I mean, other than robocalls, I don't receive a lot of unsolicited telemarketing. There was actually a woman who was featured on national news. This was years ago. She actually lived in West Virginia, and there was the law in her state that if she received a call from a telemarketer, told them not to call back, and they called again, she could actually take them to court and win an $11,000 judgment for each violation. And she said she collected, I think that year, like $200,000. So kudos to her. Computer tech scams, I talked about that. The grandparent scam, this again is a scam that's usually perpetrated by telephone, usually. And it is usually one of three scenarios. A, your grandchild's been kidnapped. B, your grandchild's in the hospital. Or C, your grandchild is been arrested. All of them involve wanting to get money from you and using that fear tactic again to heighten your, get the adrenaline pumping and again, make decisions you normally wouldn't. There was actually a scam out of Richmond, Virginia about 5 years ago, where a Target employee foiled the scam, did not sell the gift cards to the grandmother who came in, and actually they caught the person, which is usually a rarity in these cases. There was another one recently on the news where there were people that showed up in safety vest who came to collect the money. So that's a new element to the scam. So now they're coming to your door to collect the money. They're not asking for gift cards. They want the cold hard cash. That's definitely been off-putting and has received a lot of issues and complaints in our community. So just want to make you aware of that. These are my sources. Scams after disasters. I'll go over this quickly because I know there's probably some questions, Angela, in the chat. If someone comes to your door, especially during a disaster, they regardless of what county it is, and I can only speak for Virginia, they have to have a door-to-door solicitor's license. If they don't, just shut the door. I've slammed the door on so many unlicensed contractors. Scams related to natural disasters, charity scams. This happens a lot during this happens a couple of times during disasters, during the Christmas season. So we'll do sorry, too much is going on right now. Yes, sorry. All right. So there's the insurance fraud, the charity scams. So going back to charity, people like to give charitable donations, usually at the end of the calendar year, maybe throughout the year. A lot of charities are created because of the fact that a natural disaster has occurred, and that money does not go to the charity. It'll sometimes go to somebody else's pocket. So you want to be careful in where your donations go, because you want your donations to matter. You don't want them to go to a scammer. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. And then there's just some information about the disaster fraud, or excuse me, National Center for Disaster Fraud. So since its creation in 2005, they've had over 70,000 complaints based on natural and man-made disasters. And there were about 1,300 related to Hurricane Katrina, which happened, oh my gosh, almost 18 years ago now. It's a long time. So the coronavirus scams, again, we talked about this earlier, but just some other information. Seniors became very scared about becoming ill because of what was happening on the news. There were people that were coming to people's door in 2020, even before a vaccine had been created or, approved by the Federal Drug Administration, even as for emergency use. People were posing as government or nonprofit officials. And also during this time, which complicated matters, was the US Census. And if people didn't submit their census data to either online or the form that they sent in the mail, what happens is that the Census Bureau will actually hire workers to go to the doors of people who didn't respond to get the information. And because of COVID, because we tell people don't answer the door if you don't know who's there, it created a lot of problems for the US Census Bureau because they weren't getting the data they needed. So it's kind of like what they say, a perfect storm. As a result, there was the purchase of miracle drugs that will cure the disease. Again, this is what people were being told. Items were even being mailed to victims, and they were actually coming in from out of the country. So we didn't know where they were coming from and what they were. And there were people who were taking medication that they otherwise wouldn't, because these scammers convinced them that this would cure COVID. So the United States Postal Inspection Service was putting out warnings. They ended up investigating complaints that they received. It was definitely a big problem during COVID. Just some holiday scams, and this can attribute to during the year as well. People like to purchase gifts, purchase stuff for themselves. You want to be careful of sham order confirmations. Again, this is a ploy to get you to pay for orders that don't exist. And people have done that previously because they're not keeping track. Bogus shipping notices, shady email scams, which happen all year round. Cloned websites, because unfortunately, the legitimate companies are having unknowingly their websites are being cloned. Disappearing packages. This happens a lot during the holiday season, the latter part of the year. Fake charities that we just discussed. Unreal relatives in distress that, again, perpetrate usually via social media. Sob stories on social media to try to get you to give them money. Phony classified ad listings and intercepted data, because people are trying to steal our data all the time. Again, this is not just for the holidays. This can be all year round. You want to make a list and create a budget for stuff you need and you want to order. You want to do your research. You want to look for the best deals. Again, you want to keep track of your purchases so you make sure you receive everything you've paid for, and you want to give gifts, not personal information. So some tips I've given you, but I want to reiterate. You have the power not to answer the phone. Use it. If you don't recognize a number, don't answer it. We've had people tell us, well, what happens if it's my...
Uh-oh, Melissa?
We lost.
Oh, no.
I don't know.
There
You
she
don't
is.
have to answer the door if someone comes to your door. If something sounds too could be true, then it probably is. Okay.
You blanked out for a second. Melissa.
Sorry, I'm
No,
going
that's
back.
okay.
Yep, I'm going back. You don't have to answer the door. If people are coming to your home, you can totally ignore it. If something sounds good to be too good to be true, then it probably is. Again, Carl said that earlier. We have a consumer affairs department here in Fairfax County that handles complaints. And again, they're part of the Silver Shield Task Force. And we also encourage people to either file their complaint online with the police, because they have a website, which I can get you, Angela, or the non-emergency crime reporting. This number is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So if you have problems, they can get you a police officer to do a report. Thank you all very much. Angela, are there any questions in the chat I need to answer?
Carl had one for you, Melissa. I think
Sure.
real estate scams. Carl, do you want to elaborate a little bit, or?
Actually, I have two more questions after
Carl
that.
has lots of questions, Melissa.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I was curious about real estate. If there are any real estate scams that are there's been real estate scams throughout history, but I was if there are any new ones online that I haven't heard, like buying bridges or buying anything that's it stands out.
Regarding real estate, Carl?
Yes, grand real estate.
So I know there are times where we receive mailers about buying our home. There are legitimate real estate agents that actually send letters to homeowners, especially if that community or that particular neighborhood is popular. Because my husband and I bought a house during the pandemic, and we received several of those letters. There have been scams recently related to vacant property, where someone owns a parcel of land that there's no house on, and scammers are actually trying to sell that land out from under people, and nobody's the wiser. Actually, a real estate agent told us that back in December, that is in fact happening. That's kind of a newer scam, because I think there is a lot of land, in other states. Virginia, as you go south, there's more like open space, but especially in our region, and there's very few vacant parcels, and people are trying to grab them up, even if they do it illegally. That's the only one I know about. There may be others that I'm unaware. Obviously, scams are happening every day. And as we know about it, we try to get information out to the community, but that's the only newer one I know about, Carl.
One thing, one thing that scares the bejesus out of me for future scams is this new technology for emulating people's images and putting words in their mouths that sound just like them. It'd be very hard to decipher whether it's the real person or not. How are we gonna get around that? With people making claims to us that they've done this, or this is working for them, or we have a cure for this, and putting images of people that we trust online or on television, tell us that we can trust them.
Yeah, that's a tough one, Carl. I mean, again, I think the pandemic put us in a situation where we've had to do a lot of business virtually. A lot of forms, especially DocuSign, has become huge in getting forms completed. Not seeing people in person, obviously. It's going to take a lot of research on the part of people. I think it's gonna there's gonna hopefully be an opportunity for the government to kind of decipher what's real and what's not. But a lot of times, I'm going to be blunt here, a lot of times we're behind the times because we only find out about it once someone reports it. We're not on the cutting edge of identifying scams. So that's kind of the challenge we're going to have to kind of face in the coming years, as, like you say, new technology and trying to decipher if people are real or not, and if in fact the products they're selling are real.
I don't spend much time on it, but what do you know? What do you know about the dark web?
I know a little bit. I know it is, it's definitely where people are getting information and trying to, steal our information. There's even a layer deeper called the darkest web. And that's where a lot of information is apparently being sold.
Mm.
Anybody else? Any other questions for Melissa? We're just about 11 o'clock. So
Melissa, I just have one thing. I don't know if you covered this. Unfortunately, I was late getting here, but about people freezing their credit card accounts in order to protect some of the stuff that goes on.
Yeah,
I
so
know I
no-
had my identity stolen at one point, and it was only because I had good security set in place that
Yep.
somebody was not, they tried to open like 3 different credit cards, and fortunately for me, it didn't happen. But I don't know if you covered that piece of things at all, as for some people that being something to consider.
Yeah, no,
Freezing their
absolutely.
credit
No, we did
line.
not cover it. What I can say is this, the last couple of years, we have, Virginia has actually made it easier for people to put credit freezes on their credit accounts. Credit cards have gone so far as if you lose your credit card or it's stolen, you can put a freeze on it. So to try to combat any type of financial losses. A lot of people are, do the credit monitoring that they pay out of pocket each month. There are some people that will go to different companies such as LifeLock to kind of have that protection in place, you were mentioning. So yeah, it's a lot of vigilance on our part to keep our credit as clean and no identity theft, obviously, because they say identity theft occurs one time every 7 minutes in the United States alone. So there are definitely ways you can do it. Laws have made it easier. But if you do become a victim of identity theft, and luckily you did not this happened to you. But there are people that, have to spend years trying to get their life back on track from an identity theft case.
Do you endorse anything? Do you endorse LifeLock or anything like it?
No, so I don't know enough about it I can't endorse anything because I'm a county employee.
Right.
We have had people in the presentations that we have given that have talked about LifeLock. Some people seem to like it. People are concerned that it does cost quite a bit of money per month. There are other companies out there. So it's just a matter of what you feel comfortable in purchasing and how much you want to spend a month to, even some insurance companies are actually, and credit card companies actually for a fee will provide that service too. So it's just a matter of where you want to give your business.
Yeah, American Express has Credit Secure.
Yep.
Which is probably cheaper than LifeLock, but not, not free.
well, and I encourage everyone, many companies nowadays have notifications. If there's a purchase over a certain amount, you can activate the notification at your card level. It'll tell you if somebody's trying to use it. I've had twice where Chase Bank, I have a card through Chase. It just happened in December where somebody was trying to make an unauthorized purchase. Immediately, it locked down my account. It closed everything and they automatically reissued me a new card. I mean, just that quickly. And it was kind of very early in the morning. So I encourage you to check with your banks, your credit card companies, and see what kind of notifications, even if you, sometimes they'll call you versus sending you a text message. So make sure you spend some time on your card website or calling them directly and having them help you set up those notifications. It saved us at least twice that way, and very secure. And I didn't have to pay extra for that either. That was included.
Yeah, so it depends on what your credit card company, and I have American Express, Nancy, as well. And yeah, it's a charge to have that particular service. So
yeah, I also encourage you, whoever your bank is, there's many banks nowadays have notifications at the bank level as well. So, make sure if there's like a an international or a wire transfer or something like that, it'll send you an email and say, did you, initiate this wire transfer? Give us a call if you didn't or whatever. So yeah, setup is, I know we don't want any more emails or phone calls or text messages, but stuff like that can really save you.
Angela, I just wanted to add to what you said. It's not just big amounts. It's even $1. Like I check my statement and I check every single receipt. And then I saw a $1 charge that I don't know these people. I didn't go to Sequoia someplace. And I called the bank and they said they usually do this. They send out in, computerized $1 charges and no one takes a look at it, and then they'll charge you with a lot of money. So they immediately closed my card and sent me a new one.
Great, Lillian. Thank you. I will also say Google does that too. If there's a Google transaction that's being initiated, sometimes it's a zero charge as a security measure, just to make sure that, so even if you see the 0 charge, you can get in touch with whoever is trying to make that charge as well.
Melissa, just to understand, I should not be helping this foreign prince who's absconded money from oil riches. Wants to put.
Now I wouldn't help him.
Okay.
They got enough money.
Okay. Wait. He wants to put money. He wants to put money in my bank.
Tell him you want it in cold hard cash.
Okay.
And no cryptocurrency, Carl.
Right. I'm
Please
sorry.
no.
The cryptocurrency, I just haven't wrapped my head around it yet. It's a lot to take in, especially if you grow up, we grew up with traditional money savings accounts, and cryptocurrency is a hard one.
Well, especially with all the energy it takes to manufacture it.
Exactly. You got it.
Anybody else, Carl? I'm trying to give other people an opportunity. You're just full of questions.
All right.
Lillian, you had a question?
No, I just wanted to mention, I went to a new Target one time and the person was saying, do you want to open our store credit card and you'll get 20% from all of your purchases today? And so I did. And then the next thing that happened is my bank's calling me and asking me, have you moved? I said, no, I've lived here for 25 years. And apparently whoever picked up my, clipboard or whatever has changed that credit card to their name, my name, my social security, but change the address. So, let's try not to say, okay, 20% discount, I'm going to sign up. And so we end up with all of this, what the police called is your footprint is everywhere. If you have a Macy's card, a Target card, a Walmart card. So I've stopped, doing that.
Well, I've seen it where I've gone to a restaurant and used my credit card and next thing I know, there's charges on my credit card that shouldn't have been on. So it can happen. I think it can happen anywhere you use your credit card. I think that's we have to keep close account of where we use our card and how it's used. It's gotten to that point. It's sad.
Yeah, I think there's also smaller, scammers like Virginia Tax called me in February to say, you have filed your income tax, but we're not sure if this is you. And I said, I don't file my income tax in February. I file it in April because, my accountant waits till April. So they said, okay, we know this is not you, so we're not going to process it. And then they advised me to call the feds, because when I called the feds, they already sent again another income tax return trying to get my refund.
Wow.
So I mean, and that's a little bit, you don't know where that came from, right? I guess Social Security nowadays is so, the number, our SS number is so easily gotten. But I went to my HR and I I just mentioned it to them, and they found 9 other people in the company that got the same thing.
Wow.
So, it's those little scammers that said, oh, I can do this to this few people and I can get away with it. It's so sad, but no. So now every year I get a special PIN number from the federal, and I use that PIN number instead of my I use that PIN number to submit my tax information.
Yeah, another thing, and Melissa, you may have covered this right at the beginning, is I think a lot of times we tend to give out our social security number when it's absolutely not necessary. Up until a few years ago, actually, Medicare used to use the social security number on your card. It took lots of effort on the parts of millions of people to get them to change that.
Oh,
And I
yes.
think the average person doesn't realize if you go to a physician and filling out forms, there's no need for you to even put your social security number there or in many, many other places because it's not legally required and there's no need for most anybody to need that. So I think that's one way that sometimes we can tighten things up a bit because I think we're used to being asked to fill out name, address, social security number. No, they don't need that.
You're absolutely correct, Nancy.
Yep.
I learned that the hard way.
Carl Robb believes you, Nancy, because I think he hasn't put a social security number on a medical form for decades.
Well, I was
He's
slow
like, they don't need
to
this. That's it.
learn
you know?
that. But
I tell them,
they shouldn't really even put it on the paperwork, frankly.
I put a big X on it, X right where it says SS. No way.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
I just want to share a funny story. We got a call from an Indian sounding person that says our computer has been hacked. And Ramon said, I'm sorry, I don't have a computer at home, but we do. But Ramon said, oh, really? I'm sorry, we don't own the computer.
My favorite is the one who I pick up the phone and the person says, Grandma. I'm like, I'm not a grandmother. Go scam someone else.
Well, we're in our 50s and we're still getting calls from we get call these every it's not every day, every week for Medicare, and we don't qualify, but thanks.
Yeah, and I tell the computer folks I can fix my own darn computers. I have the
I try to sell them books though.
Yeah, Carl does. He turns it around. He's like, well, hey, I'm an author. You want to buy my book?
No one's taken yet.
No.
Bummer.
Must not be the Wednesday discount, Carl.
Buy one, get one free. Yeah.
Well, I want to be aware of Melissa's time. It's almost 10 after 11. Anybody else with any other questions or comments? We're going to make sure that you get Melissa's slides. Also, the recording is going to be available for those who came in late, or I might even make it available to some of the people who said, I'd love to hear Melissa's talk, but I can't make it today. So yeah, okay, we'll share it. But lots of great information. Oh, Jenny, go ahead.
I got a bill from Xfinity it was a jump in my monthly price. So I had an old bill and I called with a number on it. So I called it and the man nicely said, yes, we aren't sure why it's raised, but we'll give you a $30 credit on this month because of the trouble. And I said, well, that's fine. And he said, well, would you like me to just put the new payment on your credit card? And I said, that would be fine. So I gave him my credit card. And I didn't check my bank account for a couple of weeks. And when I did check it, I found that the amount that I paid by my credit card went through and then it was deleted. But after that, there were several other, like up to $300 of new charges. So I ended up calling. First, I called the bank. I went into the bank and showed them, and they said, this has to be a fraud. So then I drove into Charlottesville and went to the Xfinity office. And the man just put his head in his hand and shook his head. And he said, no, this is happening everywhere. And it was an old number. And he showed me that the charges were from a city that where Xfinity doesn't have an office. So I just realized I've got to be so careful about even calling the a company to make any business transaction. And and the bank, covered it for me.
That's great.
But I hadn't checked my account for 2 weeks. So that was a lesson.
Yeah,
And
I
not use
mean, there are
old
people
credit,
now that,
old numbers.
yeah, there are people that check their credit or their bank accounts every day because they're concerned
Yeah.
of scenarios just like you described.
Yeah.
What you're saying, what sounds obsessive, it maybe isn't so obsessive to do that. That might be actually something. From what Jenny's telling us, it's a necessity to check your credit every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Jenny. That's a wake up call.
It
Yes,
was
thank
for
you.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
bet.
think it is for me too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
This
Well,
has been
and
so helpful, Melissa. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking
Well,
the
thanks,
time.
Angela. She's the one that
My
invited
goodness.
me. So thank you all for joining today. And please, Angela, please share it and I'll get you the information that I promised. If you need anything else, just let me know.
absolutely, Melissa. Thank you so much for your time and your sharing your knowledge. I'm sure we'll have a back in the future because there will be more scams that we'll need to let
Sadly,
people know
yeah.
about. So
Yeah.
we'll spread the word as much as we can. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just let us know. Thank you all so very much. You all have a great rest of your day.
You think?